Let's be brutally honest here. Had we not beaten Burnley on Saturday, the chances of Premier League survival would have been gone for good this season. I'm pretty certain of it. So West Ham's trip to Turf Moor delivered a much needed 3 points and, crucially, a clean sheet that moved us a little bit closer to safety. Let's see how it's going to turn out. Both goals came in the first half, and the team defended the lead under some pressure after the break from Burnley. I think they had something like 3 shots in the first 5 minutes of the second half, but we managed that storm, didn't we? Now look, Nuno made a number of key decisions for this game, and maybe because of how weak the opposition was, they were calculated changes that perhaps he felt we were going to get away with. Now, whether he sticks with these changes for the game against Man United on Tuesday night is going to be interesting to see. And the first of those changes, of course, was after a long absence, Nuno brought Mads Hermansen back between the sticks and left Alphonse Areola on the bench. Hermansen kept a Premier League clean sheet at Turf Moor, adding to the only other Premier League clean sheet this season away at Nottingham Forest. So on the surface, the result underlined the immediate impact of the selection. Hermansen's presence changed the feel of the back line. The defence looked more compact, more confident. Playing out from the back was pretty easy. And the team defended the box with greater organisation in the moments that Burnley pressed. I guess the clean sheet is the headline, isn't it? But the subtler effect was a calmer distribution of the ball and a clearer communication from the goalkeeper to his centre-backs. Hermansen was also catching the ball rather than the way Areola punches the ball away. And now punching the ball away can sometimes backfire because it means the ball is still in play and can be used by the opposition to build another attack. But we've also got to reflect on the quality of the opposition here. Most of the catches Hermansen made were under no real pressure, with Burnley rarely throwing bodies into the box to make it difficult for the keeper. So wouldn't Areola have done as well in catching the ball as Hermansen did? There's a suggestion that Areola didn't make the team, didn't make the starting lineup, because apparently he either had a slight knock or he was ill. I don't know which one it is. When I've asked, I was told he was just dropped. But I guess seeing what Nuno decides to do against Man United might give us a clearer indication of whether the manager's where the manager's head is at when it comes to our goalie situation for the remainder of this season. But let's not assume that Nuno's decision was on who was in goal was deliberate. Let's assume, should I say, let's assume that the decision he made was deliberate, and that Hermansen being back in goal is now his to lose. If that's the case, what does Hermansen offer that Areola doesn't? Well, I've mentioned one or two already. His distribution of the ball is certainly better. I guess that's why Graham Potter brought him to the club last summer. He did say about the build-up from the back. Hermansen is confident with his feet, with the ball at his feet. His short passing and willingness to be involved in the build-up play does give West Ham a slightly higher ceiling when it comes to playing from the back. That encourages the fullbacks to push forward, and the midfielders will be able to receive the ball in better positions. Hermansen also looks to sweep behind a high line and is more assertive in claiming crosses and organising the defence. That proactive style reduces the number of scrambles in the box. Now, there's also a psychological lift when a young keeper returns and performs well. Defenders start to trust him, and the team gains belief. 2 clean sheets being down to Hermansen this season is certainly a confidence boost not only for him, but for the whole team. And let's not forget, though, Areola has single-handedly kept us in games, many games, throughout this season with his fantastic reflex saves. He has experience, he's got big match pedigree, and great at, those reflex shots. Now, these traits, they remain valuable. They don't disappear overnight. But Hermansen, I guess, brings a different profile that suits a team that's trying to control games from deeper positions and build through the keeper. So what's right for the remainder of this season? Hermansen or Areola? Well, Hermansen's clean sheets at Burnley and Forest gives Nuno a form-based reason to stick with him. Continuity in goal can stabilise the defence during a relegation dogfight. Now, look, if Nuno wants to play out from the back and have a keeper who sweeps and communicates aggressively, Hermansen fits that brief better than Areola. But Areola's experience is valuable in high-pressure moments. Hermansen must be managed so a single mistake doesn't derail his confidence, much the same as what happened at the beginning of the season. He's made a number of errors in his very brief West Ham career already, and now the confidence is key to whether he remains in goal or not. And I guess with a congested schedule, Nuno may need to rotate. Areola remains a credible option when a different style is required. But do you rotate your keeper as much as you may do a defender or a midfielder or a striker? I don't know. The other concern for me is Hermansen's reach. Great in claiming the ball in the air, but still questionable when a low drive into either corner of the goal is made. He just doesn't seem to have that enough reach to cover a ball. And the final point about the keeper is what was the plan during the January transfer window. If you recall, I and many others believed that looking for a keeper was all about moving Hermansen on. But perhaps not. Perhaps it was more about looking at maybe moving Areola on and keeping Hermansen at the club. So what about other changes that Nuno made during the game or for the game for Burnley? Well, I was convinced that Axel Disasi was not going to be match fit enough to start the game. And I was expecting Max Kilman would be in the starting lineup. However, Disasi slotted straight into the back line and he delivered a composed physical performance that helped to nullify any of Burnley's threats. Now that gamble paid off on the day. Disasi's presence is he's a big lad, immediate physicality, aerial dominance, and a willingness to step into midfield to break the lines. Now those traits helped West Ham control transitional moments and to cope with Burnley's pressure. Disasi's physicality and aerial presence helped West Ham control the central areas and deal with Burnley's set pieces and long ball threats. Disasi offers more brute force and directness. I guess you could say Kilman is a more, positional defender. Should be reading the game better. Not that he has done much lately. And against a team like Burnley, who can be direct and physical, Disasi's attributes were the better match. A new signing often brings urgency and a desire to impress, and that can lift the whole back line. But with a lack of match fitness and with the Man United game coming up on Tuesday, is Disasi going to keep his place in the starting lineup? It really depends on his fitness, I guess, and Nuno's tactical plan. Disasi's physical traits make him a strong candidate, but United present quite different threats. More movement, technical forwards, quick interchanges. If Nuno wants aggression and aerial control, Disasi should start. If he wants positional discipline and recovery speed, on paper, Kilman should be the preferred option. Given Disasi's recent match-sharp fitness and the payoff at Burnley, it would not be unreasonable to expect him to start, but rotation is a realistic possibility given the short turnaround. It won't surprise me if Disasi is on the bench on Tuesday night, but for me, I'd rather try him at the start and change it if you need to. And what about the front line? Well, another surprise on Saturday was that Nuno started both Callum Wilson over Pablo alongside Taty Castellanos. In the past few weeks, we've been talking about it being more like a 4-4-1-1 formation. But on Saturday, this was a proper 4-4-2 formation. The two strikers kept Burnley's defence stretched and occupied. When Wilson was withdrawn, Nuno didn't go for the back line to shore up with a defender. as he'd done in previous games, but he brought on Freddie Potts to reinforce the midfield defensively and to protect the lead. Now, that tactical tweak helped blunt Burnley's attempts to get back into the game. The two striker setup created space for Crescencio Somerville and Jared Bowen to exploit, while the Potts substitution shifted the balance to a midfield that could win second balls and slow the game down. Exactly what was needed to close out a tight away fixture. And the space also created for a player that is fast looking like being Hammer of the Year. It created a space for Matthias Fernandes to be able to spray the ball around, control that midfield. He had another superb game. It's funny how he's flourished since the departure of Lucas Paqueta. Anyway, a superb ball from Fernandes was perfectly timed in the first half for Somerville to dink the ball over oncoming goalie. Somerville is now 5 in 5, and had he not had that goal disallowed against Forest, it would have been 6 in 6. Fantastic form. And in the first half, Castellanos also exploited the space created by having two strikers on the pitch, where an inch-perfect cross from Malik Diouf found the Argentine striker's head for a good old-fashioned flick of the ball into the net. That was a good goal. I missed it. I was in the toilet at the time. Jared Bowen has also benefited from the two up front, because whilst defenders are occupied with the likes of Wilson and Castellanos, or previously Pablo and Castellanos, it allows a player like Jared Bowen to find space to exploit on the flanks. And it looks like the two wingers are finally looking as if they're enjoying their football again. I said last week, the mistake I thought Nuno made was to take a front man off and put a defender on. And Nuno pleasantly surprised us all when he brought Potts on for Wilson to fill out that midfield. It helped to keep some control of the game in the middle of the park, rather than falling too deep into our own half to allow the opposition to exploit the space created. So I'm pleased, more than pleased, because being 3 points behind Nottingham Forest at the moment is now just touching distance with the teams directly above us. Sure, our goal difference is still bad, but those 3 points were really crucial. And to see out the game the way we did was important, because Nuno seems to have found different solutions. But are these the solutions? Are these the best solutions for this relegation fight? Well, they were bold and they were decisive. The reintroduction of Hermansen, the starting of Disasi signalled clarity from the manager and rewarded form over reputation. So the likes of Areola and the likes of Kilman, who looked like they were going to start this game, just didn't happen. There was a nice balance between attack and protecting the lead. And the two strikers up front, created chances and stretched the opposition. And the Potts substitution showed tactical flexibility as well. Nuno now has got a squad that where he knows that he can rely on the younger players to do a job when called upon, but also he's got the experienced heads in the squad for when the run-in is required of them. However, Nuno's got to resist chopping and changing too often. The best results come from a settled back four and a clear goalkeeper choice. So should he keep Hermansen as the starting keeper, especially for the game coming up against Man United, or should he recall Areola? Should he tempt fate with the match fitness of Disasi? Or should he bring Kilman in? Ironically, on paper, like I said a moment ago, Kilman seems to be the better suited against the skill of Man United. And should Nuno maintain the two striker option when the opponent can be stretched and use midfield reinforcements like Potts to close out games? Or is he going to batten down the hatches on Tuesday night and have all 11 men behind the ball against Man U? I hope not, because Nuno's decisions against Burnley were bold and they were pragmatic. Reintroducing Hermansen gave the defence a different voice and delivered us another clean sheet. Selecting Disasi paid off physically and tactically, and starting 2 strikers and then protecting the lead when Potts came on, it showed game management. There are the right moves to pursue for now, provided that the manager manages the minutes, protects confidence of the players, and adapts a selection appropriate to the opposition that we face. I guess all eyes are now going to be on Tuesday night's team selection. Like I said, don't be surprised if there are some familiar faces back, but it was really refreshing to see what Nuno did against Burnley on Saturday.